Kunbank, you want to start maybe?
Hi, my name is Bank Yimulai. I'm the CEO of Zipmex Thailand, and I'm the co-founder of the Zipmex Group. So thanks, Max, for inviting me and Kelvin as well to speak today. Yeah.
All right, Kevin, you want to go ahead?
Hi everyone, I'm Kelvin Lam. I'm the managing director of the Zipmax Group. And again, pleasure to meet all of you today and look forward to having a fruitful discussion.
All right, thanks a lot and welcome. Really appreciate your times. I know you guys are pretty busy those days, like every single crypto business. But just before we start, I always ask the speakers, how did you get into crypto? What was the light bulb moment? And can you just give us a bit of a background about your story and how did you get into the space? Kelvin, you might want to start.
Sure. So interesting story. I'm friends with Proud, who's another executive at Zipmax, and she invited me on one of the Zipmax Indonesia customer visit trips. I wasn't part of Zipmax back then. So I sat through the interviews of some of our customers. It was quite interesting. This was back in 2020, beginning of 2020. So I was a rather late adopter of crypto in that sense. And then the interesting thing that came across from these customer interviews were how they mentioned that the traditional financial products don't really serve them very well, especially in a place like Indonesia. So a lot of them pointed out, for example, the stock market in Indonesia is very prone to manipulation. There's a whole host of issues with the banks and a lot of these things. And there were a very, very crowd, our customers back then. There were, people who were 18, who were still in college or not even going to college. There were housewives. There were professional traders as well that joined the group. And then they mentioned in Indonesia, a lot of people, most people don't participate in the stock market. They participate in, buying FX, for example. And then when crypto came around, they thought this was really interesting because it's decentralized. So, relatively subject to less manipulation, I would say, depending on the cryptocurrency. And then it's also very similar to the FX story. It's essentially like buying different currencies as well. So a lot of them just jumped into this and they shared, some of the successes and also some of the failures that they had. So it was very, very interesting seeing how this entire space could provide investing options to markets that typically do not have access to a lot of the things that some countries take for granted. Like if you look at New York, Singapore, Hong Kong, it's so easy to open a stock brokerage account and start investing in everything from your local stock to your US stocks. But that's not really the case in some of these countries. And, back then DeFi was just starting to take off. So a lot of new products were coming on board. NFT was not hot back then yet. So since then, there's been a lot of new development. So it's kept me very, very engaged in the crypto markets. Every day there's something new. So have not looked back since then. And fast forward 18 months, still in the crypto industry, and it's still as exciting as ever.
Thanks. Yeah, it's exciting as ever. I agree with you. It's not at all the same space that we have seen even, I would say, last year. But thanks. Yeah, I totally agree with your point of view, and thanks for sharing. I know many of you knows Kunbank, but actually, I'm not sure I really know how did you get into crypto first. Can you share with us?
So I got into crypto in 2016 through recommendation of a friend, basically, just to have a look at it. And I basically bought Ethereum. That was my first coin. Back then, Ethereum was about $100. No, even less. I think it was like $60, $70 back then. And I didn't invest a lot. Because I was trying out, see what it was like. And naturally, because when you invest into something, you study it more. So that's when I studied a lot more about the Bitcoin blockchain. I read the white paper, and back then there was an ICO like ICO Phase. So I didn't come in with the intention of I'm in it for the technology and so forth. I came in looking for financial returns. But as more and more, as I read many white papers, because there was a lot of white paper in that day during the ICO phase. And there were, a lot of like new ideas and these sort of things. It really got me interested and into the space. And what really like excited me was that the whole concept of a blockchain doesn't require a middleman. And as a business itself, I thought, in order doing a business in the financial technology sector, where there is no middleman, or there is a less amount of middlemen rather than traditional banking, I thought that cut down a lot of costs. You can reach the customer, the ultimate user, like quite quickly as well. And that was basically when Bitcoin had the last cycle. It hit its peak with the bull run, and then Thailand came out with a regulation that they will be granting licenses to for exchanges, brokers, and so forth. That's when we really decided, and I guess it kind of leads into the story of how Zipmex was founded. Is that I didn't have a lot of background in technology and IT, because I came from legal and compliance and financial like sphere. So that's how I co-founded the company with my co-founder Marcus Lim, and we decided to go down the path of being a regulated exchange, because we thought that long term, in the end, digital assets and cryptocurrency, it's gonna take off, and any sort of unregulated exchanges eventually will have to come into the fold and be regulated. So that's why we went down this path. And we're happy to say that we're in 4 countries. We're pretty entrenched in Singapore, Thailand, Australia, and Indonesia. So that's how I got into crypto and how Zipmex was started.
All right. Thanks a lot for sharing. And before we go into the core of the subject today, I have personally been in the space kind of much longer. In 2012, 2013, I seen the ICO phase. And I would like to have your opinion of what do you see today compared to what we might have seen in 2017. We had this bubble, but the infrastructure was not there. The project were not ready yet. We didn't have that much exchanges. And I would like to have your opinion. What do you feel is different in 2021 compared to maybe 2017, 2018? If you can just give me a few words on that.
Well, definitely, first thing you mentioned, infrastructure. That is correct. Infrastructure for exchanges or custodians and wallets and these sort of things weren't as prevalent, or they weren't as secured as they are now. So back then, people were still using hardware wallets, and like custody providers, such as what Atato is like building a product using. It wasn't really exist. There wasn't a lot back then. Secondly, there wasn't a lot of regulation. So in terms of investor protection, legal recourse, there was none of that. Back then I was trading on Bittrex, Bitfinex, Ether Delta, if you remember. Yeah. So those are very old school like exchanges. And just imagine like transferring like money over to somewhere in some country which you don't even know, and it's all crypto. It was a huge risk. So now we have regulated exchange pretty much everywhere in the world. So that is what is different. Also, what is different now in terms of the cycle for cryptocurrency is back in 2016, 2017 was the ICO phase. I mean, if you go beyond that, like 2012, it was Bitcoin. Bitcoin was used for illicit goods, illegal, goods and activities and all these sort of things. In 2017, when with Ethereum coming into the foray, you had ICO phase. And back then, it was just you had a white paper, and you didn't have a product or anything, but you could already raise $10-20 million, like a lot. And even maybe like a company like Telegram, I think they raised like $1 billion, but they had a product. Now to this day, if you just had a white paper and you have no product, you will probably be very lucky if you raise $1 to $2 million. It's very different. You got to have a product first. So that is what we're seeing. And we're seeing the maturity of the investors and the maturity of these companies too, to actually build a product first and make sure that adoption is happening. And then that's how traction gets built. And I think this will probably lead to what Kelvin, I would like to pass this on to Kelvin next, is that what we're beginning to see, what is different now is the emergence of like new use cases for cryptocurrency. It started off with DeFi, decentralized exchanges, and now DeFi. And I'll let Kelvin elaborate more on what on NFTs, which we're seeing such a huge boom in the NFT market at the moment.
And okay, before Kelvin replies, I just like to take one point of what you said about the maturity of the customers. At Zipmex, basically you're onboarding new customers every day. So what do you see as a behavior of a new crypto investors, maybe compared to a few years ago? Maybe Kelvin can get this reply, and up to you.
Yeah. So in terms of I'll just respond on the customer part. Is that we're still onboarding new customers who are not who are very new to crypto, because it's an emerging industry. It's a growing industry. You're always going to get new entrants, new people who don't know about this space. But they're quite lucky, these new people that come in, because the likelihood of investing into scams is a lot less than what it was in 2017. Like Zipmex, we have a listing process. We actually do our due diligence. We don't list every coin, under the sun. We actually have a look and the project. We do our homework on them, which back then exchanges didn't do. You just pay a listing fee to the exchanges and they'll list you. Like that's it. Now there's more requirements. So it is up to the responsibility of exchanges as well to make sure that these new entrants, for Zipmex, we make sure that these new entrants are exposed to products and services which have been curated, which we know is secure. So that is the difference there, because they have a better provider. But in terms of new people coming in, it's still new people coming in every day, and there are existing customer base too who already know crypto a bit as well. But there's a lot more, like a huge ton more, that have not entered this market yet.
Okay, thanks, Kun Bank, for that. Kelvin, maybe you want to add something on the product side, right?
Yeah. So I think continuing on the point of from the customer's perspective, technology in general has made consumers these days very powerful. I think consumers in general are more educated than ever. They're more savvy than ever. And then they know what's happening out there. Or even if they don't know, they can just go Google. And there's so much information on all of the things that's happening. And because of this, traditional businesses that, Bank talked about how we started off as exchange. We didn't want to stay there because, exchanges can very quickly become commoditized. I'm a crypto savvy investor, or I may not even be crypto savvy, but I can just go on some sort of website and they always compare, oh, this one has fees, this one doesn't have fees, this one is good, this one's bad. So then we need to start building a product that's more than just an exchange, because consumers will be desiring a lot of new things too, because now they know about, for example, like NFTs, they may use some other platforms and they know about, for example, Launchpad, Launchpool, and all these things. So for Zipmax, our idea is, okay, we have this rising class of super savvy consumers. They're demanding all these different products which they're getting information to. So how do we build a truly differentiated company that can onboard the next 1 million, 10 million, 50 million customers into this digital assets world? And what we've done is we've made the onboarding process super easy. So you take a picture of your face, take a picture of your ID, and then boom, your account is created. And then the vision is, okay, let's make the transfer of fiat into the system super easy too, which, for example, in places like Thailand, it's literally like buying a bottle of water from 7-Eleven. You scan the QR code and your money is in. So where's the customer journey after that? So typically they'll be like, okay, I've heard of Bitcoin, or like Bank, like first thing they think, oh, Ethereum. They must have at least heard of these two coins, and they'll be like, okay, let me take some fiat and we buy the Bitcoin or Ethereum. But then they will still need to graduate somewhere, which is why there are more and more financial products or similar to what traditional financial products with different characteristics, maybe faster, lower cost, being offered on platforms. And this is exactly what Zipmax is looking to do in all of our different jurisdictions, depending on, of course, the regulatory regime in each of these markets. And what we want them to do is you take this money, you buy some crypto, then from there, you can also do a whole host of things, yield generation or cards and all of these different things in different jurisdictions to further get more bang out of the buck for your digital assets. And then on top of that, there's the NFTs that's becoming very, very popular. And if I'm a consumer, I'm like, I've heard of NFTs and all these crazy stories about how a rock gets sold for $150,000. They're like, hey, how do I learn more about this, or how do I even buy one? Right now, the customer journey is very difficult. So you have to get a MetaMask, you have to connect it to something like OpenSea, you have to buy some Ethereum, and then the process is so complicated. So at Zipmex again, it's like, how do we plug our customer base into these newer products? And we're increasingly putting these things in. And I think we'll probably talk a bit more about these in the coming interview. So I won't go into too much detail, but we are building an NFT platform that will be out and about in Q4 of this year. And the whole purpose of that is to make the entire journey super seamless. As a consumer, I can just do everything on Zipmax and it's super seamless. And because Zipmax has a very trusted and very secure system, I can be sure that I buy this NFT, the NFT will be there. And then the NFT, if it has use cases, it will do exactly what it says. So I guess, yeah.
Now, on that point, in Thailand, we just saw a regulation. The SEC was coming out saying that they might not allow the NFT to be traded. How do you cope with that? Is it something that it's going to be different? How do you manage with the regulation?
Zipmax is in 4 different markets. So the beauty of our company is that we can always test different products out in jurisdictions where it's regulatory compliant. So the NFT platform, for example, if it's not compliant in Thailand, we could always offer it to other customers first, like Singaporean customers, Indonesian customers, and we can build the platform around there. And like the ethos of our company is regulated, taking the regulated approach. So we'll work with the regulators to understand where the roadblocks are, where the concerns are, and hopefully with some consultation, we can build a product that's compliant with the Thai market as well, and then offer it to our Thai consumers.
Okay, thanks for sharing, and I think we are going to jump right in the subject of this meetup. Is when we started, when blockchain was just starting as a solution for financial institutions, it was mostly they were scared that DeFi are going to replace the banks and that they are going to be useless. But today, as a user of crypto, I buy my crypto on a regulated exchange, and you guys are coming up with new products. So when do you feel are you going to replace the banks? Tricky question.
Yeah, we are not really trying to replace the banks, but what we see is that the behavior of people living in the 21st century has changed. Traditional banking has been around for a long, long time. It's been around for centuries, and with the advent of financial technology, the internet and blockchain technology, you can see that the companies like Zipmex is going to come up and provide product offerings which are more attractive than traditional banking products. But it doesn't mean that the existing banks today cannot also pivot and explore something. And we've seen this like in many countries around the world. I mean, PayPal they're not a bank, but they're going into this. Goldman Sachs has now invested into Bitcoin. They're now offering it to their customers. So you're beginning to see banks start moving into this space. And I'm sure in Thailand, you're going to see soon as well that, banks are starting to move into this space. You're already seeing with SCB 10X, there are investment now of SCB, Siam Commercial Bank, that are exploring, blockchain and digital assets. And they've been finding very good success with those ventures. So you're going to start to see, some sort of a combination of the two, where you see sort of transformation of existing crypto companies, trying to provide very much more innovative financial products and services to customers. But at the same time, you will also see banks trying to come into this space and offering these types of products and services. The difference between traditional banking and Zipmex and this type of business that we do is that we're not a legacy business, so we move faster, and we don't. And the culture is, because it's quite a newer company, it's only about 3 years old. The culture and the way that we move, the way that we implement product, and we're very tech-based as well, which a lot of banks are not tech-based at all. It allows us to be more flexible and to move faster, and to reach and to have our product reach the customer faster than the banks do. If a bank wants to come up with a product, it will take them months, maybe even a year, in order to do that. But for Zipmex, it will take us like a month or two, in order to launch a product. That's the difference to me anyway.
Okay, I agree with you, and that's going to be my next kind of questions to maybe Kelvin. That, all right, you guys, not only you, but I'm talking about the other exchanges worldwide, right? You can trade cryptos, you can basically earn interest with your stablecoin or Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. Some of them, and I saw some announcement from you guys, are working with Visa, which I guess is for a credit card or a debit card, right? And on top, after that, you have the futures. And this is the kind of all the tools that the banks provides that you guys are going to provide very soon or already do. This is the suite of product that you are announcing. Can you expand on more on that? What do you feel is going to be a key change for you to grow your user bases based on the product that I mentioned?
Yes, I think, first of all, from my perspective, before launching the product, is the affinity with banks from consumers in general is just decreasing over time. The reason is fintech has made it super easy for everyone to not have to visit a branch. I can't remember the last time I had to physically go visit. Although in Thailand, you have to do that more because of some paperwork from some banks that are not as innovative. And financial products are also increasingly becoming embedded into products and services. And this is a very important point. And what I mean by that is, like, take your credit card, for example. Nowadays, in Thailand, for example, you have Grab. You just input your credit card into Grab and you don't interact with it again. Like, in fact, you never think about your credit card. You just go on a Grab and you just, and then the only time you do again is the credit card expires or something's wrong with it. And you're like, oh crap, let me find another credit card and put it in. So you don't really interact with your financial products in the same way as, the previous generation, which means, coming back to my first point, the affinity, especially amongst the younger generation with banks, is just very different. And the concept of what banking is, the concept of what financial solution is very, very different. So this gives us a lot of opportunities, especially amongst the younger generation, to offer these products to them, whether it's the traditional financial products that you mentioned, but we're also going beyond that. So we're going beyond that in, for example, a couple of different ways. So the first way is, as you may have seen, we have launched an online ecosystem called Zipworld. So Zipworld, the whole idea behind it is to work with different partners in business verticals to offer their products and services onto this online ecosystem. And we wrap our financial solutions around this ecosystem. And this financial solution, as we get more users in the digital asset space, is going to become much more powerful. So as for example, Maxine, I know you keep a lot of money in crypto, and anyone that's deep in crypto don't really keep fiat in their bank anymore, or they don't really keep that much idle cash in the bank anymore. So if you want to buy goods and services and they already have digital assets, why not redeem it using your digital asset? So that's one concept. Then there are a lot of different, products that we're exploring in different markets, like ZipSpend, ZipLend, and all of these things. You can also wrap it around these sorts of ecosystem and provide, and this is going back to my original point, which is financial services are becoming wrapped around the end and not the other way around. And as Bank mentioned, we are innovating really, really fast. So we can get ahead of the curve. We can just go out and talk to all the different businesses and say, let's do this together and let's wrap the financial solutions around. And we are starting to launch this. And in Thailand, you've seen some of the Zipworld products go up, but this is just the teaser and this is just the beginning. And then another way that we're innovating on products is we're not just adding financial solutions in digital asset forms, but we're turning products and services into digital assets themselves through NFTs, for example. So, you can imagine a world where if let's say I'm a sneaker brand, I have this sneaker that I want to drop, especially like limited edition sneakers. Before, you can sell your limited edition pair of sneakers and that's done, right? But now what can you do with NFT technology is they can come to Zipmax and be like, hey, I have this pair of limited edition sneakers. Can we make that into some sort of digital art? So as a user, what I can sell is both the physical pair of sneaker as well as the collectible art that you can, for example, show off in your social feed. And not only that, you can also trade it. So as a consumer, I'm like, okay, I buy this pair of sneakers through this NFT. Before, as you know, with a lot of limited edition pair of sneakers, you would have a second-hand market, right? But then you're in New York, he's in Hong Kong. Okay, I buy the sneaker, then I have to send it to him in Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong guy sends it to someone in Bangalore, and the process goes on. But now with things like NFT, you can just send the NFT. And what would happen is, I'm a consumer, I have this limited edition pair of sneakers, I sell my NFT on this marketplace, person B receives it, and then if he wants to take redemption of the pair of sneakers, he can just click on the redemption button, and then his address would be sent to, for example, Nike, and then Nike would just fulfill it by sending it to his address. So there's a lot of innovations that we're working on, and we're attacking it not just from a banking point of view, but beyond banking. How can you go beyond that? And I think the player that's going to win in the long term is going to be someone who can follow the consumer. Like, what do the consumers want? And I think, as Bank was mentioning, it doesn't necessarily have to be a digital asset player, because a lot of them, exchanges, they stay as an exchange forever and then they slowly die out. Banks as well, they can build these products. There's a lot of very innovative banks out there. But to me, I think the most powerful combination is if these digital assets player and these banks come together, and you have your existing ecosystem, you have your existing base. Even though avidity is decreasing, everyone still understands what a bank does, and they already trust them. But then on top of that, you add in the innovation layer. I think those are the sorts of players that's going to win in the long term.
Okay, and let me just rebound on one thing that you said about NFTs. Well, on the sneakers part, right? You create an NFT, basically representing the special sneakers, right? So you are doing like the banks. You are creating a financial product on top of a real asset that people can trade. So in some ways, you are kind of replacing the banks and creating new, innovative financial products, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, I think part of the NFT part is the trading aspect, the financial aspect. But NFTs go far beyond that. Like, my mind was blown when I first, for example, saw Decentraland. You now buy like physical blocks of land. You have your virtual blocks of land. You build your virtual house. Then you have a virtual avatar. You can dress your virtual avatar in your favorite pair of sneakers. So can you imagine? In real world, you're wearing your limited edition pair of sneakers, and then in the virtual world, your avatar is also wearing that. So there's a huge social component, and the mentality and the ethos. And I think coming from like not the youngest generation pool of people, sometimes even for me, I'm like, oh, why would people want to do this? But then once you immerse yourself in these sorts of world, you're like, okay, I understand. It's like at the beginning, it's like, why would anyone use Instagram? Like, why would they want to take stories and photos of their food and everything that they do? But it's just changing consumer taste and changing consumer behavior. And I don't think it's purely financial. It's also social, and it's also, just emotional, which is what makes products sticky. Pure finance, like, no one ever wakes up in the day and say, hey, I want to save some money. It's always an end, right? Like, oh, I want to have something and I need to have money, or like, I want to go on a holiday, I want to show off my lifestyle or something, right? So I think that's the difference. And the newer products like digital assets, it's not necessarily purely financial in nature, but it can also be very emotional and personal.
Okay, I agree on that, on the change part, and thanks for expanding on that. And my question next to Bank is that, all right, I would say, as a retail user of my bank, I have a credit card. I deposit my Thai baht in Thailand, and I basically spend, and that's it. And today, what would be the difference for me to basically deposit my money on Zipmax, earn much more interest than what I have today on my banks? And if you guys have the credit card, basically live my life with my Zipmax account replacing my bank. That's that's, I believe, what's going to be a big change. So what could you expand on this part?
Yeah, everything that you in terms of the customer journey that you just explained, Maxime, doesn't touch the bank at all. It only really touches the bank when you're dealing with fiat, which is the national currency of any country. And then once you convert that fiat into the digital format or digital asset, then it becomes in the realm of Zipmex. And that's where we, can innovate, and we have these sort of products, and we try to make sure that every touch point of, of every person that they interact with, in terms of spending or saving or investing, trading, and so forth, it's done all on Zipmax. I mean, what you have pretty much explained, yes, that is what we are trying to do, creating a digital lifestyle where they can interact with their everyday lives using this digital platform such as Zipmax. But there is still, there is still the component of, the national currency of fiat, and this is a tale as old as time. It's a battle of the ages, as it always been. Control of central banking and control of the money supply and so forth. So I mean, I don't want to get into the philosophical argument of the disrupt.
I think we are. Is it my internet, or Kelvin? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, but I think Bank momentarily dropped off.
So my question is for you: is that when can I be is back? Go ahead, Ben.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
No, we were.
Kelvin, why don't you take this? My internet's a bit choppy. Why don't you continue?
So, Kelvin, my question is that when can I, as a user, basically replace my bank with a digital exchange like Zipmex, and living my life out of cryptos and your products? When do you think it's going to happen?
I think a big part of that question depends on the jurisdiction you live in, and then how comfortable regulators get with these various products. So, like, let's take lending as an example. So essentially, regulated exchanges like Zipmex already have our own risk management process in place. We are starting to learn more and more about the consumers through all the different interaction points with them, especially once we launch things like our own online ecosystem. We can tell what they like, what they want to buy, what their goals are, what are they saving up for, all these kind of things. And it's a matter of us working with regulators to get them comfortable with the fact that we will lend responsibly, for example, in that sort of instance, and that we will be just as rigorous as banks to offer the sorts of protection to consumers in terms of information, in terms of understanding their risk profile and all of these things. So as a business, we are very ready to innovate on our products. Mentioned at the beginning of the call, there are many different considerations from each of the different regulators in different jurisdictions. And the flexibility that Zipmex has is we understand that, not all regulators will move in sync. But, if we can't test, for example, a lending product here, can we test it in another country where they're more comfortable with this idea? And then we can take this product back to, for example, if Thailand is the regulator that's having issues with this, hey, we've piloted this in this other country. This is how it works. And can we try it out in Thailand? And I think that's probably going to be path forward. So in terms of timeline, then regulations, they change, they can change overnight. So I think for us, the good thing is we're in a very good position since we are diversified across many different countries, and we can be very flexible to offer this. But from a business perspective, we do want to offer these things. It's just we want to do it in a regulatory compliant way.
All right. So following questions for bank. When can I ditch my classic banks and live with a Zipmax account and credit card and so on?
For Thailand, maybe sooner than you think, because the BOT has come up with the digital baht paper believe a few days earlier this week, I think on Monday. And the digital baht, in terms of the first phase, is coming in the second quarter of next year. And as a licensed digital asset exchange, we can essentially convert people's Thai baht into the digital baht, which is the national stable coin. That is now you're now in a digital world, and we can build on and off ramps to that digital baht. You can spend it, you can convert it to other digital assets, and you can do other things with it as well. Eventually, I think, I was asked a question today as well by the press, was that when are we going to become a cashless society? And I think that we were heading in that direction anyway. But with COVID happening, it has accelerated that change. People are now, with social distancing and working from home, the whole idea of being a cashless society is more, prevalent than it was, like before COVID. So I definitely think like within 5 years, we will be a full-fledged cashless society, and everything that you will be doing in terms of your finance life, opening a bank account, doing KYC, investing, trading, spending it, buying NFTs and so forth, it'll just be on your phone. That is definitely coming. But I don't foresee a world where the decentralized revolution is going to take over, where everyone in the whole world is going to be using Bitcoin or USDT or something like that. I think governments still have a stake in how their countries are run. So I do think that we will see a centralized system of central bank digital currencies and stable coins, and we'll also see the decentralized world of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and this. I think they'll both be existing in tandem with each other.
Okay, thanks for your reply. And actually, there is a question on the chat that I might reply very quickly. What is the purpose of a national Thai baht stablecoin? The day that you have a stablecoin, basically a Thai baht stablecoin, everyone in Thailand will have a wallet on their phone, and it's going to actually allow the explosion of digital currency. So that's something that you should not fear. It's something that I think it's part of the adoption of cryptocurrencies.
To me, there is one thing to fear about central bank digital currency, and that is supervision and oversight. Is that everything you do, any money that comes in out of your wallet can be tracked and traced. And that is why the yuan digital was kind of created, so it could be tracked. So, eventually, imagine like no one uses the paper yuan anymore, and everything is on digital yuan. Things like money laundering, things like using the yuan digital to buy illicit goods, it just won't happen because it could be traced and tracked. So that's also, I would say, the dark side of a very centralized central bank digital currency.
Okay, thanks for sharing. And just to go back on the topic of what Kelvin and Eubank were saying, on the product offering of the banks today. So you have the credit card, you have some financial products, but there is one thing that actually the banks are doing for us that so far the digital assets are not. It's actually real estate loans. You guys might be loaning some money to us as a user if we have enough collateral, right? But if I want to take a mortgage, I cannot take one on Binance. I cannot take one on Zipmex. I cannot take it anywhere. When do you use, and it's a big part of why the banks people are using the banks today. So do you feel that there will be a future where a company like Zipmax will be able to offer mortgages?
I think there's a lot of innovation happening in real estate. It's in terms of digital assets. You're seeing, for example, fractionalization of real estate being offered. You're seeing real estate NFTs being offered. You buy this NFT, you get discounts, you get revenue share, you get all these things. So this is not something that exchanges or platforms don't want to offer. But again, it just comes back to the regulation. And we have seen examples of companies around the world that are starting to do this. I think there's a company in the US called Figure, and they are, the crux of the business is using blockchain technology to offer lending because it's much more efficient. You don't have all the paperwork and everything. They started doing mortgage refinancing services, and they're looking into mortgage as well. I think they're in one of the US states. I forget which one. But like if, for example, the regulators that we are working with are comfortable with this idea, then there's no reason why we cannot expand to this product when there's already so much innovation happening with that specific sector.
Okay, thanks for that. And I hope it's coming soon because it's really going to change the space, but I understand it's all about the regulation, right? And but anyway, thanks a lot for actually enlightening all that part. There is a few questions that I want to ask before we go to the Q&A, but it's related to ZMT, the first one. So you launched your token last year, if I'm correct, or the beginning of the year. Sorry, I forgot. And you guys are expanding in different products. Can you expand where do you see ZMT basically in the overall world of the Zipmex world? What is ZMT? What can we use it for?
So there are three main value propositions of ZMT right now, and I'll describe it into three different buckets. The first bucket is the Zipmax ecosystem. So if you hold ZMT, you'll get certain benefits on Zipmax. And as we announced yesterday, we're constantly revamping the tiers depending on what customer feedbacks are. So for example, if you hold X amount of ZMT, you'll get X percentage of discount or increase in bonus, and those things are quite easily understood. And we're also introducing the ability to pay fees using ZMT at a discount, which again, people will be quite familiar with the concept. And as we roll out ZipSpend and all these other products, it will become, as the product suite increases, the use cases along the Zipmax ecosystem will also increase. And this is also very good for ZMT because essentially it's going to grow with the whole Zipmax ecosystem. If you believe that Zipmax as a platform is going to grow from 1 million people to 10 million people, then the demand for ZMT will just continually increase because it's fixed at a supply of 200 million tokens. The second bucket are people that are thinking about it from an investment perspective. So on one side, you have capital gains, again, betting on the fact that Zipmax will be very big, and then ZMT will be used by a lot of people. So they do that to hold. And then we also have programs like Zip Up and Zip Lock, which is yield generating. And we are also launching a very exciting new product called Z Lodge in the next month or so. And this is basically, as a ZMT holder, we reward you. You get free tokens when we have new high growth potential projects about to be listed on Zipmax. So, these projects, they want exposure to the Southeast Asian market. So we pass on these so-called like marketing tokens that they give us, and we give it back to ZMT holders. So ZMT holders will get really excited about it. We'll educate them about the project, and then they can start trading these tokens once they're listed onto Zipmax. So that's also very exciting from an investment perspective. And then from the third angle, it's really this whole lifestyle online ecosystem that we're building right now in order to redeem things on Zipworld and also going forward with our NFTs. You use ZMT as the redemption currency. And also, as we release more things, some of them can only be unlocked if you have certain ZMT levels. So you can see that with this whole entire online ecosystem, it's also tied to ZMT. We are also foraying into gaming as well. So we are launching ZipPlay in 1 or 2 months. And we're going to start off by doing some very simple Flappy Bird-like games where we can just get the engagement out there. You play a game, depending on what score you get, you'll get some sort of free ZMT that you can redeem if you KYC onto Zipmax. And then we're also weaving crypto education into these games. And it's not just going to stop there. The vision is to build this into a very large ecosystem as well, where people can come on, and gaming NFT is a huge thing. So we can also wrap this whole gaming component back into an NFT component. So the third bucket is this whole lifestyle stuff. And then again, ZMT is going to be either the redemption currency or the currency that allows you to unlock certain benefits. So if you think about these three buckets, which represents everything that Zipmax does, ZMT is the token that underpins it. And this is something like going back to the topic of today, which is banks, right? they have like, all these different types of points, but then it's all like very, just the concept is very, very like, it hasn't evolved over time. A lot of times you have these points and you're like, okay, what do I do? Okay, I'll just redeem it for some credit, but then it's not, that exciting. But what we've done as a digital assets company is we were the first one in Thailand to come out with our own exchange token. And we are also the only exchange to actually come up with a whole suite of use cases surrounding this token. And as you can see, like all of the things I mentioned, most of them have already been executed. And there are some in the horizon, like, Z launch and NFTs, but these are also coming up before the end of the year. So, as a whole, this whole ZMT ecosystem is quite innovative as a whole. And I think compared to other exchange tokens even out there, we're going far beyond. We're not just, oh, okay, use this to pay for fees. It's not just that, but we have a whole lot of use cases. And I think the differentiating edge between us, like our ZMT token and other exchange token, is the fact that, going back to the original point, we are looking to build an entire digital assets world on Zipmax. It's not just your financial products. It's not just, some NFT. It's not just, some trading of the Bitcoin, Ethereum. It is literally the entire digital assets world onto this very easy to use consumer platform. And we are going to bring the next 1 million, 10 million, 50 million people onto this. So that's really, really exciting for us. And the ZMT project has been around since December 2020, and it will be around for, until December 2030, 2040, 2050 and beyond.
I was not too far. I forgot the launch one, but thanks a lot, Kelvin, for explaining about that. And we saw that actually Zipmex is growing. You guys are launching a lot of different products. But if you allow me to ask about the kind of threats that you have as Zipmex as an exchange, when I put the meetup on one of the Bitcoin group in Southeast Asia, some people were commenting and say, well, we don't need centralized exchange. We don't need the banks. We have DEX, decentralized exchange, and we have decentralized finance. How do you feel that decentralized exchange and DeFi could be a threat to your business in general? Can you start with that?
Yeah, when you're one of the most important things is that if you're an investor on a decentralized platform, you have no legal recourse if something goes wrong. This is a big problem. Some DeFi protocols have been hacked before. The journey, secondly, the customer journey into the decentralized world is still very difficult. It's not as friendly as it could be. It's friendlier, but you still have to have a MetaMask account, transfer your Ethereum on there. You got to pay gas, you got to stake it, and there's high fees as well. Especially for any transaction that is on a smart contract. Sometimes you pay $10, $15, or $20, or before the Ethereum upgrade earlier this month, during the whole DeFi phase, you will be paying up to maybe $100 for fees. That is also the downside of decentralized exchanges. So for me, like, there is definitely some beauty in decentralized platform, decentralized protocols. It is essentially allows peer-to-peer transactions as what cryptocurrency was supposed to be founded upon, taking out the middleman. However, there is a risk to that. So for new types of investors that are coming into the market, they're already quite fearful of cryptocurrency because of its volatility and because of fear of the unknown. So, which is where Zipmex comes in. We're able to provide these kind of semi-decentralized and DeFi products, and we package them into something which the customers can easily use and they can easily access. And if they have a problem with it, they can contact our customer support team 24/7. We can recover information or any cryptocurrency which is lost, and at the same time we have very high standard of IT, because we're regulated. So we always checked with our security. We always do IT audit. We always do penetration tests. So we're very secure on that front. So it's it's definitely something that customers have to weigh. And what we try to do with Zipmex is that we try to offer the best of both worlds without the best of the world, DeFi and decentralization, without sacrificing security and customer experience.
Okay, got it. I agree on the point. Kelvin, you want to add something? Or?
So for me, again, I think it's a process of working together. Honestly, on Bank's point, the customer gets very confused if they're confronted with a product that's very difficult to use, and then if you tell them there's no recourse, they're very, very scared, especially for new consumers. But what a regulated exchange can do is we can build an infrastructure on top of which people can build things, and that's the whole goal of Zipmax too. We're building more and more products. We don't necessarily have to do it ourselves. We could work with people to offer some of these things. And how I see it is, Zipmax can essentially go out and vet, further down the road. Okay, we can work with this protocol. We don't want to work with this protocol. We can offer this DeFi product onto Zipmax potentially, or we don't want to offer it because it's, very dangerous. But what we will do is we will provide the infrastructure in which people onboard into this digital assets world, and then we'll give them optionality. So that's the whole point, like giving people choice, giving people access, making sure that everyone out there can invest like Elon Musk. Everyone out there has a chance to access, all the things that these different financial products have to give. And I don't think it's a binary thing, honestly. Like, the ethos at Zipmax especially is we want to work with everyone. We want to work with the banks. We want to work with, DeFi. We want to work with all of these platforms out there. But it's just like, how do we pick people to work with? And which players should we pick in order to protect our consumers? We're in it for the long term. We're not here to make a quick buck. So the last thing we want is for our consumers, our users to be burnt. So that's why we're quite careful in picking our partners. But as you know, since you're also one of our partners, once we're in there, we're in there for the long term, and we really just want to create something very awesome for the next 1 to 10 million to 100 million people that want to onboard onto this digital assets journey.
All right, thanks, Kelvin. And it's going to be my kind of last question for the opening. And we had a wild first part of the year, a nice bull run, a nice crash as we know them in crypto. I know I don't like to ask these questions, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. How do you see the next 6 months to 1 year for Zipmax and for the crypto space in general? Ben, can you share?
Yeah, so I'll let Kelvin talk about for Zipmex first, and I'll elaborate on the market.
Okay, go ahead, Kelvin.
Yeah, so I think we've probably covered most of the points, so I won't repeat them. But for Zipmax specifically, we are looking to onboard onto our projects, onto our platform, all the exciting projects that are out there, whether it's NFT launch and a lot of things that we discussed. And we want to push ourselves away from this image of being a digital assets exchange, which we are not anymore, but into a platform that everyone can trust, and then they can learn, and then they can invest and grow with us. And that's the aim for us for the next 12 months as a company.
All right, thanks. And Bank, everyone is waiting for your prediction.
Well, I don't like to predict, but it's a bit of a late one. If you had told me like during the halving last year, I would definitely say like Bitcoin will go up, because that is the effect of a supply shock. And Bitcoin dictates the market. And I forgot what the dominance is, maybe about 45% of Bitcoin dominance in the market. But we are definitely seeing some different things than what we were seeing in the last cycle, which is institutions have come in. And MicroStrategy has bought more Bitcoin, like I think 2 days ago. And these companies are publicly listed companies as well. They have costs, and we know actually the costs that they actually purchase it at. So that is kind of an indication as well. And we have funds and institutions building on and off ramps into this and coming into this space more and more. I do think that nothing goes up forever. Everything, once demand reaches its peak, of course, there's no one else who's going to buy, because everyone and their grandma has bought. there's only one way left, which is, it's people going to start to sell. It's just a national, it's the natural, flow that it has to be. The thing is, and I always tell, Zipmex customers the same as well, is that, definitely cryptocurrency is volatile. If you want to hodl, then you hodl, meaning you hold for the long term, and you don't have to invest in one go. You can stagger it. You can do you can do dollar cost averaging. You invest every month a certain amount, and you hold it for the long term. But if you're able to recover your principal, meaning your cost, meaning if you made a profit of 100% or something like that, it's not a foolish mistake to take out your cost. That way you didn't lose money at all. Your cost is still there, your principal is there. All that you have left is your profit. So that's always been my advice. In terms of where I see the market in the next 6 months, I believe, this is my own personal opinion, that what we're seeing is a cycle which is longer than 2013 and 2017. I think this cycle is a bit more reminiscent of the 2013 cycle, where there was a 6-month lull in the market. And I definitely do think that, Bitcoin still has a little bit of a ways to go. But just remember that earlier this year, I mean, I would say like maybe 9 months ago, it was still at $10,000. For it to grow 500% in less than a year, it's already a lot. So there's still some upside, but not as much as it was a year ago.
Okay, and for people in crypto, 500% seems like a normal gain. It's not, but my question is more as you are seeing it as an exchange, and you talk about institutions coming in. Do you expect less volatility than what we have seen maybe last year?
I think once the price hit a certain amount, you're gonna see volatility decrease in Bitcoin. In 2017, Bitcoin moved sometimes 30% in one day. We don't really see that anymore. If you notice, you don't see 30% in a day anymore. You may see 30% in a week, but in a day, it's less likely. So to me, as more, people coming in, and the more people that hold very, very small amount of Bitcoin, of course, then, that's going to insulate against volatility as well. I do think the volatility of Bitcoin will slowly decrease year on year. And if you look at the growth of gold as well in the history of gold, it was kind of similar to what Bitcoin is right now. When it was a $1 trillion dollars asset, it was very volatile as well. So I do think the same will repeat for Bitcoin.
All right, then thanks, Bank, for sharing. And my last questions go to Kelvin, and it's related to one thing that has been asked on the chat and the personal questions for me. First question is that you talk about NFTs and your platform. I'm not sure if you can share where you expect it to be live. And my second question is, as a personal user of Zipmex, when can I see futures on Zipmex, and are you allowed to do that with the current regulations? That's my two questions to end it up.
So ZipWorld that we launched is the precursor of NFTs. We're testing the online interface, UI, UX, how comfortable people redeeming things using ZMT. And the NFT component of it will be launched in Q4 of this year. So you'll be seeing news about it extremely soon. In regards to more not super exotic, but like even like futures instruments and all these things, we have a whole pipeline of very exciting things which we're about to announce. Not exactly futures, but something very exciting as well in the next month. So do stay tuned. But like when we think about these exotic or futures or derivatives or these instruments, it really depends on, again, the regulator. How comfortable are they? I think in Thailand right now, the answer is it's a bit difficult, but in other jurisdictions, it's very different. Like for example, Indonesia and other countries, there are regulations that are starting to address how can regulated exchanges provide futures and derivatives in a regulatory compliant way. So I think you'll see other countries offering it first, and Zipmex in other jurisdictions offering it first. And then again, our approach will be to talk to the Thai regulator and say, hey, we're doing in this other country. Can we bring it in? But it probably won't happen for a couple of months.
Okay, thanks. And well, I was actually, we touched on a lot of points that were already on the chat and the comments on Facebook. And I think there is one question which is actually summarizing the whole thing, maybe for Bank to hand it up. Kay is asking if already on other directions, why should I sign up on Zipmex instead?
Well, firstly, at the moment, Zipmex Thailand has, you know, we have various products that we have that other exchanges don't have. We have Zip-Up, where if you leave your cryptocurrency, you will earn a yield on that. We will be revamping that and improving that even further. No other exchanges does this in Thailand at the moment. And for the past year, we haven't been charging trading fees as well for Zipmex Thailand. So that's the reason why we have onboarded many customers for Zipmex as well. And something to look forward to in response to that question is that, you know, many customers ask, you know, Zipmex, when are we going to be listing more coins? And you know, I'm comfortable to say that in working with Atato to launch a product together, and Atato has actually finished the testing version of their product, and we'll be looking to list a lot more coins moving into the third and fourth quarter of this year. If any customer or anyone watching wants to take any sort of what kind of coin, any indication, in Zipmex Asia, I think we've listed, you know, 40, 50 coins so far. And, you know, we will be continuing with that direction as well for Thailand.
All right. Thanks a lot. And really wrap it up. And thanks for the little promotion. Yes, for people who don't know us, Atato offer actually custody solution for exchanges and any people holding or managing cryptocurrencies. We are very glad to have Zipmex as a customer. So I really appreciate the support as well. So thanks a lot. I think we wrap up the hour even a bit more. I know Kelvin and Bank are doing those events all the time. So I really appreciate that you took this hour in the evening to support the Bangkok Blockchain Meetup. Every month, we try to bring you some innovative companies. We will have the Ethereum Bangkok event on the 29th of October, where we have basically the biggest name in the Ethereum space. It's going to be online and free as usual. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time, the speakers first, Zipmex, the whole team for the support, and you guys for joining all the time. I know it's late. You hear about crypto all the time, but I appreciate that you support this meetup. Kelvin, Bank, thanks again for joining. And yes, for everyone, see you next month. I will update on the meetup group with the nice company that we are going to receive as well. Congrats, you guys, for the recent news, and thanks a lot for your times, everyone. Have a good evening. I'm going to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.